Hi everyone, thanks for joining the webinar today on cnPilot and cnMaestro technology overview. I'm Puneet, I'll go over the cnPilot and Leo will go over the cnMaestro of this. If you have any questions in the course of the webinar, please go ahead and click on the questions tab in the GoToWebinar control panel and type the question. I'll answer it in line as we go through the webinar. So as we know, Cambium has been in providing secure and reliable wireless broadband and back options using the distance point-to-point and point-to-point solutions. We are now extending that to provide an end-to-end solution by also providing edge access using Wi-Fi access points. That's the cnPilot family of access points. And by providing management solution that we are calling cnMaestro, which can provide management and control of all of these devices, the point-to-point, point-to-multiple, as well as Wi-Fi. cnMaestro can run either from the or on the premises on a NOC server. In the first release, we have cloud and the NOC controller is coming on the road. The Cambium Wi-Fi portfolio is of two components, the cnPilot, which is of access points, and cnMaestro, which is our controller and network manager. Among the we are launching four variants, the cnPilot R200 and R201, which are the residential gateways for home and for small businesses. The ePMP 1000 hotspot is the same hardware as the EP 1000 CSM, but with a software upgrade, it can be changed as a Wi-Fi access point. So this is a single radio Wi-Fi access point. And then the cnPilot E400 and E500 dual radio 11 AC access. The E400 is for indoor enterprise use. The E500 is for outdoor device. We'll start with this R200 and 201. This is a residential wireless router with LAN ports for each devices, and depending on model, one or a dual radio or Wi-Fi access. It also supports for ATA ports, so you can connect a SIP phone and make calls over VoIP. The implementation of SIP is compatible with industry standards, and we have tested with standard SIP servers. The R200 and 201 can also support PoE out. They can provide power over Ethernet per device. It has to be a Cambium device, such as a PMP4 ESM or a EPSM. So to allow you to, for instance, install the SM on the roof of the house, have this access point inside the house, and using a single cable run, you can have both data and power, saving on the cost of installing power for the device outside. The R200 series will be centrally managed from the cnMaestro management solution. The R200 comes in five different flavors, with the differences being the Wi-Fi radios, whether they support for WIPE ports or not, and whether they support PoE out or not. So for instance, the R200s have one radio, one single 2.4 GHz 11N radio, while the R201 is a dual radio device with 11N as a 11 AC radio. The R200 does not have support for PoE out. The R200P does have support for PoE out. Default configuration on the R200 and R201 is a default IP on the LAN of 192.167.1. Inside the default DHCP client, which we expect the WAN port to be connected to service provider's network, IP address to be assigned by the service provider. HTTPS are enabled, so you can log on to the device and make any connection changes. Wireless is also enabled out of the box. On the 2.4 GHz radios, the SSID is Cambium 4 and 5 gig it's Cambium 5. The username and password configuration is admin. Now you need to direct to the device only if you want to configure the device locally. Using cnMaestro, all of this configuration can also be done remotely. This is a screenshot of the configuration page of the R200. We are in the administration section, and under Cambium network management you can see three config items here. For remote management, enable, disable, the cloud manager URL, and then a Cambium password. The R200 out of the box enabled for Cambium remote and will connect to cnMaestro at cloud.cambiumnetworks.com. The onboarding of device, and Emilio will go over this in the next, can be done using serial numbers or by configuring a Cambium ID. The Cambium ID is optional on the R200. You can onboard them using just the serial number. This is a screenshot of the wireless config page. As you can see, the R100 has support for 4 SSIDs. Each of the SSIDs can support up to 16 wireless clients. This is a screenshot of the security page. We support WPA2 and WPA PSK. You can configure the password, re-keying interval, etc. You can configure all of this on a per SSID basis. Wi-Fi analyzer is another feature of the R200 which comes when it is managed through cnMaestro. So this is not on the GUI of the R200. This is a screenshot of cnMaestro when it is managing an R200. It can ask the access point to do a scan and to report back the neighboring APs that it is here. So looking at the count of the neighboring APs, their signal strength, and what channel they're on, you can try and see if the access point is operating on a serial channel. And you can scan remotely from the cnMaestro interface without having to go down locally to the device. Moving on to the enterprise series of access points, the EPM 1000 hotspot and the cnPilot E400 and 500. The default configuration on devices is to have wireless off. The default IP address on the E400 and 500 is 192.168.1. On the E1000 hotspot, we have consistent with the IP address PMP SMs used today. So the default IP is 192.168.0.2. There is also a back IP address 169.254, which you can use to access the device if for some reason it is not accessible on its normal IP address. Out of the box, HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH are enabled. So you can log in to use the GUI or the CLI. The username and password is again admin. This is the screenshot when you're onboarding one of the E-series access points or the PMP 1000 hotspot onto CN. So if you want it to be managed through the cloud. At the bottom of this, and this is again something that we'll cover in the CN section as well, you can configure a Cambium ID and a password, which will help to tie this device to your account on the cloud. In addition to that, use to enable, disable device access. So for instance, Telnet, SSH, HTTP, HTTPS could all be turned off if you're managing the device completely through cnMaestro. When you log on to this device, this is the first view that you get, this dashboard. And this is a bird's eye view of the access, some basic information of it, such as the software version, the uptime of the device, its MAC address, the operating channel and transmit power of the radios. And we keep a dashboard, a graph of the client connection and throughput over the last minutes. So Maestro can help you go back much longer in stats. You can look at stats for the past few days, weeks, and months. On the access point, because of memory limitations, we keep the last 30 minutes. So if you troubleshoot some issue, you can log in and see any clients were associated and what kind of throughput point was bridging. In system configuration section, other than name and location, you can also configure the country code of operation. The country code is automatically set for FCC SKUs. On the other SKUs, you have to configure it. And based on the configured country, the appropriate channel and power levels will be used by the device. There's also a configuration item called PoE out. This exists on the EPMP 1000 and on the E500 series. Both of these access points have two Ethernet ports. and one of the Ethernet ports can be used to provide output power to some other device. The EPMP 1000 is only cambium PoE, so you only connect another EPMP 1000 or a PMP 450 SM on that port. The E500 has a software switchable mode, so you can also connect standard 8.3 AF device, such as a camera. This slide goes over some of the basic wireless LAN configuration items. Up to 16 LANs can be configured on the EP1000 hotspot. We support 8 wireless LANs. On the E400 and the E500 series, you can configure 16 per radio. Each wireless LAN has its own name or SSI. This is what would show up when you run for the access point from a laptop. You can also configure independent security. This could be pre-shared keys or WPA2 enterprise, where we radius authentication to a radius server. Or you can choose MAC authentication, where the device will allow or deny access based on the MAC client. The MAC address can either be configured statically, or we can look up the MAC address on a radius server. Similarly, VLAN can be configured statically, or we can assign a VLAN to a client from the radius server. You can also configure guest access policy for some wireless LANs, and we'll go over this in detail in. You can also configure other policies such as access control, rate limit, and time-based schedule if you want the wireless LAN to be in service only during certain times of the day. We also support radius accounting and dynamic authorization, which is useful if in the environment you're looking for ways to prioritize Wi-Fi or even track clients and their usage of the network. Have some on the bridge. So standard PoE, I have a question on the bridge. What was the supported standard PoE out? The answer is the E500. So the EPMP 1000 hotspot PoE out is cambium PoE only. The E500 has software switchable mode. You can choose between cambium PoE and standard 802.3AF. Another question was, is cambium investigating hotspot 2.0? Hotspot 2.0 is on the map, and you should see hotspot 2.0 support on all the EI points early next year in Q1 of 2016. Moving on, radius configuration, you can configure up to 3 radius servers for authentication and accounting. And the radius servers are used for EAP when your security is set to WPA2 enterprise. It can also be used for guest access authentication and also for MAC authentication if you have a centralized list of MAC addresses. The radius servers can be configured in 2 modes, load balancing or failover. In load balancing, every alternate request will be sent to the next radius server. So let's say if 3 users connect to the network, the first username password would go to radius server 1, second one would go to 2, and the third one would go to 3, and then we would go round robin again. In the failover case, all the requests would be sent to the first server, and in case the server becomes unresponsive, then we would move to the second server and so on down the list. The radius implementation is standard, and we have tested with free radius with Windows Active Directory, and it's expected to work with 3GPP AAA servers as well for EAP-SIM and EAP-AKA support. You can also configure rate limiting on a per SSID basis. The rate limiting can be done on a per client basis, so you can choose to have every client restricted to 256 kbps or 100 kbps, for instance. So this would help avoid one client hogging all the bandwidth at a site. You can also set a limit on the aggregate bandwidth that one wireless LAN uses. So let's say you have 2 wireless LANs on your access point, and one of them is for serving guest users and the other one is for corporate. You can rate limit the guests down to 1 Mbps or 2 Mbps, for instance. WLAN scheduling is a feature that allows you to configure certain start and end times for a wireless LAN. This is useful for cases like schools, libraries, or even retail stores, where they may want to provide access only during certain hours of the day. So a retail store may want to have its Wi-Fi operating only during the store operating hours. Libraries or schools might have fixed hours again. So you can pick certain days and you can pick certain times during which on a per SSID basis, the access will be allowed. The other SSIDs are not impacted by this. So you can have one wireless LAN being scheduled, another wireless LAN always serving up access. We support guest access using splash pages. The access point has a built-in captive portal server. So if you enable guest access, any client request going out will be intercepted and the user will be redirected to a splash page. This is an example splash page. The splash page is customizable. So for instance, the text here that says powered by Cambium, the terms and conditions, all of that can be changed by the operator and customized to his own deployment. We support two access modes. The first one is click-through. That was the example on the previous slide, where you would just accept terms and conditions and go ahead and use the service. A second mode that the administrator can choose to configure is radius authentication. So in that case, the splash page would have a username and a password field, and the client would be expected to type in a username and password, and that username and password will be looked up on the radius server. And only if the radius server grants access will the client be granted access to the network. The pages can be hosted on an external server, or you can customize the built-in pages. The implementation is also interoperable with third-party providers. We are in the process of getting the access point certified with some of the third-party hotspot providers. We also support walled garden. So you might have a case where a hotspot owner wishes to provide access to certain URLs even to unauthenticated clients. So a hotel, for instance, might want to provide access to the hotel's website even for users who haven't bought service, or might want to allow sign-on servers. Accounting is also supported for guest access. We track the session time, the number of packets and bytes in and out on a per client basis. There's a question in the question section about how customizable is the guest access splash page. So in the default case, all the text is customizable. You can also embed HTML. The second option is to point the user to an external web server, in which case you would then have full control over the contents of the login and success pages. Another question on the webinar pages: with guest access accounting, can you limit by data usage? So yes and no. The way we limit today is we support change of authorization messages, and we don't automatically disconnect the user after a certain bandwidth usage. That's on the roadmap, and you should see that by Q1, where you can configure a certain amount of data usage per client, at the end of which the client will be disconnected. But what you can do now is use change of authorization messages from the radius server, and we'll then disconnect the client when we receive a disconnect request. Another question on the web page from Andrew: you have a portal built in and we can customize? Yes. So you can customize the text and the messages on the portal. You can also add your own HTML. Beyond that is something that's coming on the roadmap, where you'll also be able to add your images. That would be coming as part of the controller on cnMaestro. So that's on the roadmap. Any further customization than what we have now. Coming back to radio configuration, other than the basic channel and transmit power, we also support auto channel select. In auto channel select, you can configure a list of the candidate channels. So for instance, if you know at a site, say channel 11 is not good, you can ask the access point to only choose between 1 and 6. You can also have the auto channel select run periodically. So the default is to do it only on startup when the radio comes up. But you can choose that, run auto channel select 9 o'clock every morning or 9 o'clock on Monday mornings. You can also have it run periodically when there are no clients associated. So if there has been a certain amount of time since the last scan, and if the access point sees that it doesn't have any clients currently connected, so that the scan will not be disruptive, the access point can then do auto channel select. This is a screenshot of some of the dashboard statistics on the device UI. We saw the two graphs already. In addition to that, we have tables for wireless LAN usage and also the list of clients, including the vendor of the client. The configuration on the E-series is a text file of CLI commands. This is a little bit like the Cisco iOS, any standard wired switch. And as you can see, there are sections for wireless radio, and indented is all the radio config, and similarly another section for wireless wire for the WLAN. All the passwords are encrypted by default. So after you type it, if you're looking at the configuration, it provides you a certain level of security. The configuration can be exported and imported from the CLI or from the GUI. Since the configuration is only CLI commands in text, you can export the config out of one device and then either back it up and save it for subsequent import back into the device, or you can export, make changes and add it back to the device, or you can export from one device and then import that into multiple other devices. We support access control lists. ACLs can be applied either on the Ethernet interface or on the wireless LAN, and this will allow you to filter packets based on MAC address, IP address, or port numbers, so you can block or deny access. Any packet that comes in is looked up all the rules. You can specify up to 256 rules in every ACL, and every packet will be checked one by one against all the rules until the action to allow it or to deny it is picked. We also support DNS ACL, so unlike the standard ACL, which is only IP addresses and ports, you can also choose to deny based on URL or allow access based on URL. So in the example here, we had DNS deny videos.facebook, but then permit everything else from facebook.com. So this was just an example for how you would block videos.facebook.com. Again, you can configure up to 256 of these on a wireless LAN basis, and wildcards are allowed. In the example here, we had star.facebook.com. The access point also acts as a network in a box. We have a basic DHCP server. We support NAT, and we also have a DNS caching server. So if you have a small site with 3 or 4 access points, you don't need another small router, say from a Microtech. For instance, you could just have one of the access points configured to provide a DHCP server and NAT services. So among 4 access points, you can configure one, for instance, to be a router gateway, and the other 3 can be in just bridge mode. The Wi-Fi analyzer that we saw with the R200 is also supported on the enterprise access points. Here, in addition to cnMaestro, it is also available on the access point itself in the access points GUI. And in addition to the interference levels, we also show the noise floor. So in the graph above, the blue bars is the interference levels and the number of APs on each of those channels. And the red line graph is the noise floor on each of those channels. And below that is a table of the result of the scan. So that's all the SSIDs, MAC addresses of the other APs, the channels on which they were detected, and the signal strength with which they were heard. So again, sitting in a remote location, you can click on any one access point, ask it to do a scan, and send you back a result of what the access point is seeing. So that'll give you an idea of the environment without having to go on site and troubleshoot. We also provide basic connectivity tools such as ping, DNS lookup, and traceroute, which can be useful for validating and install. We also support packet capture. So packets can be captured on either the Ethernet interface or a particular VLAN and wireless LAN. You can also specify filtering. So you can look for packets of a particular type, let's say TCP or UDP, or you can pick addresses. You can say packets of a particular IP address going to a particular IP address is coming from a particular IP or MAC address. Another feature is tech support. So if there is an issue or if there's a bug to be filed, we sometimes need a lot of information to be collected from the device. A tech support is a one-click solution to that, where with one click, the access point will run a series of commands and will create a tar file. The tar file will have the output of all of those CLI commands. We'll have all the debug logs and any crash logs that we need. So with one click, you can get a tar file which you can either attach to the case or email to us, and that will help us debug whatever the issue is. There's a question on the webinar, will you be able to export the packet capture to Wireshark? Not yet. Right now we decode it inline, but we will be adding the option to export the packet capture to Wireshark, where you can save the packet and have a look at it offline. To factory reset the device, the E400 and the EPMP 1000 hotspot have the reset button, so you just hold the button down for 10 seconds. The EPMP 1000 hotspot also supports the reset by power cycling method. This is unchanged from the way we have it on the EPMP 1000 today. Another question on the webinar was from a distributor, will we be able to view tech support file for our customers? So whoever is managing the device will be able to extract the tech support. The privileges to view the tech support are same as the privileges to view the configuration or to change the firmware on the device. So if you're trying to collect the tech support from the access points GUI, you need the administrator password. And if you're trying to collect the tech support from cnMaestro, you will be managing that device through cnMaestro. So whoever is managing the device will be able to view the tech support. So this slide again just summarizes the Cambium's Wi-Fi portfolio. We went over the lower section of the slide, which is all the access points. Now Emilio will go over the cnMaestro, which is the network manager and our Wi-Fi controller solution. Emilio, I'll change you and make you the presenter.
Hi everybody, this is Emilio. Thanks for joining. Can you see the cnMaestro PowerPoint deck right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks Puneet, and thanks everyone for joining. Our management system called cnMaestro is our new Cambium management system, and it's designed for the cloud. But in a future release, it will be the same application will be able to be deployed on-premise or in the customer NOC, if that's what's preferred. This is a completely new network management application built from the ground up with security in mind, and really intended to facilitate end-to-end network management, starting with Cambium devices. And that includes inventory management, onboarding of devices, daily operations, and maintenance. And we believe that by offering this application, that it will greatly simplify managing our entire portfolio of devices. Some of the benefits of this is that it's very easy to get started. You can just create an account with a web browser and begin onboarding your devices. There's no need to purchase server hardware or to install network management applications and to keep them up to date or deal with firewall issues. It's very nice to be able to access the management system from anywhere. You just need a standard browser. No need to VPN back into the office or have special Java web clients installed on your PC. The solution itself is very scalable. An individual cnMaestro account can manage 10,000 devices, and but we can leverage the scalability in the cloud to manage much more than that. And right from the beginning, cnMaestro has a rich feature set. It's truly designed to manage wireless networks and specifically the end-to-end from point to multi-point, and Wi-Fi through all the Cambium product lines. This next slide just gives an idea of some of the benefits of the architecture of this management system. Towards the left side, it shows some devices and a brick wall, and then the cloud. And what this is trying to point out is that in traditional management systems, SNMP is used to query devices for their status and to get statistics. And in cnMaestro, it works quite the opposite. The devices themselves have a device agent embedded within their software, and they know that device agent finds the management system, and it uses only a single type of communication. It's secure HTTPS, which means that it's very firewall friendly. Only one port needs to be opened through the firewall, and that typically is for HTTPS communication, and the device can contact cnMaestro. cnMaestro itself is very scalable and redundant, which means that it's reliable. It's designed for the cloud, and it has its databases are distributed, its message buses are distributed, and its processes are distributed. So the number of devices that it can support, scales well, and it's that way by design. Lastly, at the bottom, it's showing this concept of multi-tenancy. And what this means is that an individual, or in particular, like a managed service provider, could support multiple separate customers, ISPs, and provide management service to them as a business, and he would have access to each of those ISPs' cnMaestro account, and would be able to provide technical support and professional services to operate their wireless network. The cnMaestro is hosted by Cambium on Amazon Web Services, and initially it will start out with North America, Europe, and Asia. The product itself is highly focused on security in many different ways. At the top here it says secure protocols, and what that means is each device and its communication to cnMaestro uses HTTPS, which is very secure. It's the same protocol that we use when we communicate to our banks online. When a user opens their web browser to access cnMaestro, it similarly uses an HTTPS connection to ensure privacy. The data itself is restricted. Servers have physical protection, but also the data is logically protected to prevent unintended access. There's regular security testing. The servers are backed up regularly, and there's continuous monitoring in place to ensure that the solution as a whole is performing as expected and scaling as expected. There are a number of features that are detailed in the next two slides. I won't spend much time talking about them because I'd like to just kind of demonstrate them in the actual product. So I'll just show you these slides. Okay, and we'll cover most of this in the when we go over the actual application. Since cnMaestro is a new management platform, we'll be phasing in support of devices, and these blue boxes towards the top are showing, the first box shows the first set of devices that are supported, and that includes the home small office cnPilot R200 and R201 Wi-Fi access points, the ePMP 1000 hotspot for outdoor coverage, and the E400, our first indoor enterprise Wi-Fi access point. And the first version of cnMaestro will also support ePMP access points and SMs, and we plan to have a micro release coming out shortly afterwards, supporting ePMP in PTP mode. The next major release will support E500 Wi-Fi access points, which are enterprise-grade outdoor access points, as well as the Cambium PMP product line, which includes the 450 and subsequent products in that family. And after that would come the 650 point-to-point product line. Notice all of these products that are highlighted in these blue boxes have within the radio software, they have a special device agent, and this agent creates a very tight integration with the cnMaestro management system. And it provides full management, including software upgrade, configuration, and persistent connection to devices. In our fourth major release, we'll release a software application that you can maintain on-premise, and it would be used to manage any additional Cambium devices, as well as possibly third-party devices. It would use SNMP to monitor those devices, and then create a connection back to cnMaestro. So the value of this is that at the end, you have all your devices managed via a single pane of glass in cnMaestro. For the next two slides, I just want to go over a couple terms that help in terms of creating your cnMaestro account. There's a user login. This is associated with an individual, and currently today you may already have this if you access the Cambium community site or download software or white papers. It's essentially your email address and a password. Well, now that can be used to create or access your cnMaestro management account. The cnMaestro management account is something that would be associated with your company. If you're a WISP or an ISP, you might have one of these cnMaestro accounts. You can give it a friendly name to make it easy to recognize. That's the account name. But during the account creation, you would be asked to create a unique identifier, and we call this the Cambium ID. And this is how we identify your management account as being unique from any other cnMaestro account. And this will come into play later when we talk about getting devices, onboarding them into your account. Lastly, there's the onboarding key. Again, this is associated with an individual person, and each cnMaestro user will define their own onboarding key. And so for certain device types, for example, an ePMP access point or an ePMP SM, if you would like to onboard it into cnMaestro, you would apply your company's Cambium ID in combination with your personal onboarding key on the device, either through the GUI, CLI, or SNMP, and then the device would know to report into your cnMaestro cloud management account. So I'll pause for a second. There was a question asking about data retention and that for devices. So the initial offering of cnMaestro is free of charge. So all the feature sets that we'll go over today are intended to be in the initial version and free of charge. And in this free version, device data would be retained for up to 1 week. No other questions right now. I'll continue on. So in order to access cnMaestro management system, you would go to https:// cloud.cambiumnetworks.com and click on the Create a Company Account. If you don't already have a Cambium user login, you'll be asked to sign in, and if you don't have one, then you can click here to register at the bottom for your personal user login. At that point, you would be led to this page where you fill in these 5 fields to create your account. The top field, again, is just a friendly name. This is something that you might use to identify this account. It might just be your business name. The second from the bottom is called the Cambium ID, and again, this one must be unique, and once you set it, it cannot be changed, and it is used to uniquely identify your company's cnMaestro account for Cambium. The onboarding key, again, is something that applies only to a single individual, but in this case, we're making it easy by allowing the individual who's creating the account and giving them a chance to just set their onboarding key here. One thing to note about onboarding keys is that we try to keep them secure, so we don't show them in clear text later. So you're encouraged, when you set it, we encourage you to keep a record of the key. But if you do forget, it's not a problem. You can always go back and easily reset it to a new value. So how do you onboard devices? There's 2 ways that that devices can be onboarded, and what needs to happen is that the device needs to be claimed. So it needs to establish a relationship between this particular device and your cnMaestro account. And there's 2 ways that that can be done, either by using the device's serial number or MSN. And in this scenario, a user could log into cnMaestro and type or use a barcode scanner and scan the MSN of their multiple products into the cnMaestro itself. Right now, this particular way of claiming a device is supported on the cnPilot, the home and small office Wi-Fi access points, the R200 and R201, as well as the enterprise grade E400 and E500 access points, Wi-Fi access points. The second method of claiming a device is via Cambium ID and onboarding key. So these 2 values would need to be applied to the device itself. And again, they can be applied via depending on the device type, they might be able to apply via CLI, always can be applied via GUI and SNMP. Some device types require this method, for example, ePMP access points NSMs, as well as ePMP 1000 hotspots. But if you'd like, this method is supported on all the other device types as well. I will move over these couple screens quickly because we can just look at them in the product itself. This is just showing how you can claim a device by entering or scanning the serial number into cnMaestro and then claiming the device. Within cnMaestro, in this onboarding section, there's a tab that says Claim from Device, and there's 2 important pieces of information here. One is it shows your Cambium ID, and second, it shows your onboarding key, your individual onboarding key. And these are the 2 pieces of information that you would need if you're using this method to claim from the device. This section here where it says onboarding key, again, it will not display your existing key in clear text. So if you don't remember it, you can just type a new value here, hit save, and proceed to go claim your device. The next few screens show where to look on each of the particular devices to find the Cambium Manager configuration. So on an ePMP, AP, and SM, you would go to Configure and System, and then scroll down to the Cambium Manager Configuration, the section in green, and then just enter your Cambium ID, and it says password. What that means is your onboarding key. Once you do that, you could go to Monitor and System on the same device, and at the bottom you should see that it's connected to cnMaestro and that it's got the right your cnMaestro's Cambium ID. Similarly, for an ePMP 1000 hotspot, you go to Configure System, and in the Management section, you could enter your Cambium ID and onboarding key. And then in the home page or in the dashboard of the ePMP 1000 hotspot, you'll see the status of the device connection to the Management section. Lastly, on the cnPilot R200 and R201s, you could go to the Administration tab, click on Cambium Network Manager on the far right, and here you have the ability to set the Cambium ID as well as the password or onboarding key, and you see the state of the connection in the same screen. Now, once you've done that on the device, or if you've claimed it by serial number in cnMaestro, you should see the device show up here in cnMaestro in what we call the onboarding queue. And at this point, a relationship has been established between the device and your cnMaestro account, but the device itself is not yet fully onboarded or managed. We just know that there's a link between these two entities. So you have the option to just simply click on the right and hit Approve, at which point the device will start to be managed. Optionally, you can click on some of these configure icons and you can set some things like the device location or move it to one of your networks in your management system, place it on a tower. You could define what software version you'd like the device to run or how you'd like it to be configured so that when onboarding begins, that those changes are all applied to the device. So at the end, you do need to click Approve, and if the device is already connected, it will be any changes will get applied and it will be onboarded. If the device is not yet connected, it may still be in a box because maybe you only just scanned the barcode. Then the status will just say waiting for device, at which point when the device is powered up, it'll contact cnMaestro, and then all of the changes that you've elected would be applied, and then the device would be approved and moved into management. This screen is just showing some of those changes that you can make via the onboarding queue. Basically, in the top left, setting device name, and towards the right, you can set the device location. If it was an AP, you could map it to a network or a tower. In the bottom left, set software version, and in the bottom right, you can set configuration, which choosing a template or defining some individual variables for the device. Okay, once you log into the management system, you see you have a device tree on the left and kind of a content pane on the right. Right now we happen to be in the monitoring view. The nice thing about the tree is that devices are automatically have parent-child relationships automatically determined. So, but as a user, you can create networks to kind of break your system into chunks as how you think of your system, and you can also create towers. What we imagine customers doing is placing something like an ePMP access point or point-to-point device on the tower. Within the device tree, whatever you click on the tree, the content on the right-hand side will be updated accordingly. The tree has a search bar, and just a tip, that if sometimes you see something in the tree that doesn't look right, like maybe a device shows up as being down, but you think it's up, you can always close the parent and reopen it, or close the system and reopen it within the tree, and that forces that part of the tree to get refreshed and should make sure that what you're looking at is up to date. Now, if you're managing any of our Wi-Fi products and using something like ePMP or eventually PMP 450 as backhaul, we have a powerful troubleshooting view. And the value of this is that you can see all of the devices that impact delivery of service to a single customer in one screen. So what this is showing on the right is maybe the cnPilot R200 inside your end customer's home, and it's also showing the SM and the ePMP SM and AP that are delivering service to the home, showing the quality of the link over that ePMP link, both in the downlink and uplink in terms of MCS and latency. We're showing the amount of throughput that's going through the SM, as well as the auto negotiation of the Ethernet, the LAN cable between the SM and the indoor Wi-Fi access point. So assuming that all of those things check out, then there's a number of tools that are available below to debug the link to the end clients and that Wi-Fi access point. So you can see list of connected devices, their RSSI, and there's multiple tabs where you can run a couple different types of tests. This will be better looked at in the real product, and we will do that shortly. In monitoring, there's a view where you can called statistics. Basically, this is a table that you can choose devices of a single device type. So in this screenshot, for example, ePMP SMs, then you can click on any point in the tree, even all the way up to system, and it will show you all the devices of that matching type. And you get these nice columns that give you an indication of their performance. There's some icons on the far right that change the view. So for example, right now the user had clicked on the wireless and he's getting a bunch of columns related to wireless. But you could also click on networking or traffic, and for the same set of ePMP SMs, you would get different sets of columns. This is we expect this to be very helpful in comparing one device to a group, or in general finding out what's the worst case device for certain conditions. There's a map view, and maps have towers, and SMs show up as little dots on the map. There's a map mode feature. By default, it's set to device status, meaning that the SMs are colored red or green, depending if they're up or down. But this mode can be changed to show other types of information, for example, re-registration count or retransmission percentage. So this can be very useful for finding things like if there's unstable links, and understanding if the problem is just with one device or a whole group of devices in an area. The user can click on downlink versus uplink, so you can quickly assess whether the problem is in one direction or the other to help debug. And there's also, for ePMP access points and SMs, there's historical plots, again, that are kept up to 1 week with 5-minute polling intervals, and a couple different tabs so that it's easy to kind of organize the different types of plots to present at any one time. The cnMaestro provides a convenient way to perform software upgrade on devices, and we can look at it in the real product. Essentially, you choose a point in the tree, and you choose a device type. In this case, EPMP sectors means APs and SMs, and it will show you all of the matching devices of that type for that point in the tree. So you could choose a sector or a tower or multiple towers. You would choose a version that you wanted to apply and then apply the software. cnMaestro supports device configuration via a template-based system, and it includes a capability called where you can define variables within a template, and this makes the template much more versatile. In this screenshot here, what we can see is an example template that mimics what in the EPMP AP UI is called the Quick Start section, and this template is essentially setting all of those parameters and for as this user would like, and it's calling out 3 of them using a special syntax with these $signs and making them variables that can be individually called out, set, and tracked within cnMaestro. And in this case, that's IP address, net mask, and gateway. So what this means is a user can apply the same template to a handful of APs, but within cnMaestro, he would have the opportunity to uniquely set these variables and then push configuration to all of those devices. So again, with the cloud-based cnMaestro, it's very easy to get started. You can start small and grow. You can access it from anywhere using a standard web browser. It's architected for scalability, and it has a rich feature set in its initial offering. If you're interested in starting to use it, you're encouraged. It's currently still in beta, and you're encouraged to send an email to solutions@cambiumnetworks.com to get on the beta list. So when I'll do just a quick run through of the application itself. When a user logs in to cloud.cambiumnetworks.com, again, they can have the option to create a company account. I happen to have one, so I will just sign in. And then select the account that I'd like to manage. And this is the home screen giving me a number of different common options. The full list of options is available up here, broken down into monitor, configure, operate, and manage. So if we were in the monitor section, we have our tree on the left and a couple KPIs at the top showing that our system has one point-to-multipoint access point, 35 SMs, and 3 Wi-Fi access points in it, one of which happens to be down right now. These little bar graphs indicate counts of device outages over the last 7 days to give some sense of how things have been going. You can see we've created a number of towers in the area, and one common use case that we find is when a customer calls their WISP and starts complaining, that their service is either not working or poor. So within the device tree, we have this search box, and the call center could type some term, whether it's the device name, if that reflects the customer name, or IP address or MAC. In this case, I'm going to assume that the device name is the same as the customer name, and it finds a couple devices, and this is an SM, and this is, from the icons I can tell this is an SM, and this is a R200 VoIP or R200 Wi-Fi AP. So I'll click on this customer's SM, and it will navigate me to the dashboard of this particular customer, Frank Tucker. And I can see right now, this is a test network, his SM is up. It's been connected to the AP for 21 hours, and currently this is the downlink 5-minute average of his downlink and uplink throughput. And then these are his RF link qualities. I could zoom in on the map here, and I can see this particular customer's device relative to, sorry about that, relative to other SMs connected to the same AP. Sorry, having some problems with that. And basically, I can hover over that SM and get a quick view of some details, how far it is, and RSSI and MCS, both in the uplink and the downlink. And then I can do the same for neighboring SMs to see if they're in the same geographical area, if their performance is similar or significantly different. If we scroll down for this SM, we show the current monthly usage of data as well as the last week of traffic throughput. So if the SM itself doesn't seem to have any problems, we can expand the SM and then click on the Wi-Fi access point within his house. And again, for each device that we click on, we have a dedicated dashboard showing us the uptime, number of clients, what channels being used. There's some details in terms of what software version and IP address of this radio, and as well as a clients list and SSID table. So with Wi-Fi in particular, in monitoring, we have this tools option, which is what we call advanced troubleshooting. And that's also accessible. Each of these monitoring views can also be accessed here through these icons. So for this Frank's Wi-Fi, I can click on the tools, and now it will show me this end-to-end link of his SM. In this case, it's showing an ePMP 1000 hotspot, and then the ePMP DSM, and then the ePMP AP that's feeding the house. So it gives me kind of an end-to-end view of the RF link and how far that link is. I can see how much traffic is being pulled through the SM. I can see what the LAN connection has auto-negotiated to. As well as if there are any active alarms for any of these devices. If I need to, I could reboot any one of these devices from here, and oftentimes, from talking to customers about using third-party Wi-Fi access points in the home, rebooting it solves 90% of the problems. So we make it very convenient for that. If the uplink checks out and we're questioning the link between the home access point and the clients, we have a number of tools down here from this Wi-Fi access point. So in this setup, unfortunately right now I don't have real clients connected, but if I did, we'd see a nice list of clients here with their IP addresses, manufacturers, their RSSI, and SNR information to help us determine if it's just a link issue. Maybe their access point is poorly located in the house and they have a very weak RSSI to their devices. We can click on this other tab and see devices that are not connected. So there may be some devices that they're trying to connect, but they're just not getting on. This at least gives us visibility to those devices. There's a tab for network connectivity, and from this Wi-Fi access point itself, we can run a ping test, we can perform a DNS lookup, or run a trace route. And again, all from the management system. If we click on the Alarms tab, we just get a consolidated view of any alarms that are associated with these 3 devices, again, which are impacting service to this customer. And lastly, we have the Wi-Fi Analyzer feature. So if we run this, this Wi-Fi access point will scan all the channels in the band and then let us know what sort of Wi-Fi interference as there is on each channel as well. Those are shown as the blue bars with the RSSI on the left, as well as other types of noise, which may not necessarily be Wi-Fi, but just other devices generating noise. So we get a pretty good view of which channels would be best to switch to. And again, there would be a table down here listing the SSIDs and devices that are generating those Wi-Fi interference. Switch over to the concept of software upgrade. And the software upgrade feature is very convenient. A user right now, we're in the Select Devices tab. So a user can go to any point in the tree, as high up a system. Probably more realistically, they might do a sector at a time, so choose an AP and all the SMs, or maybe even a tower. At that point, when they choose that, they would choose what device type they want to upgrade. EPMP sectors means APs and SMs, or some of the different Wi-Fi access points. So if we choose EPMP, AP, and SMs, we see we have, under this tower, we have 1 AP, but we can expand it, and we'll see that it has a number of SMs. So if we wanted to upgrade the whole sector, we could click on this top button here, and it would select all the SMs. The columns here on the right give us a nice view of what software version is currently loaded on these devices. And for EPMP, for devices that have 2 banks of software, you can see both the active and inactive bank. I kind of skipped over the fact that when you choose the product type that you want to update, there's this nice little widget that shows you what is Cambium's latest software version for that product type, and if there's a beta release that's available. And then on the right, there's a little histogram that shows you right now all of our devices happen to be running one version, 251RC4, but if they were running 2, 3, 4 different versions, you'd see a histogram and you could hover over and just get a quick sense for that point in your network, how many devices are running a software version that you're not interested in using. It needs to be upgraded. So now that we've selected the entire sector, what we could do here is we could start or add the upgrade job. By default, it's set to upgrade SMs first and then upgrade the AP. And this is what the EPMP product team is recommending. But if you wanted to, you could click on this and do the AP first and then the SMs. There's an option here to throttle how many SMs are upgraded in parallel. And the idea being, if you have any concerns about bandwidth usage, since each device will be pulling down a package, you can limit it to do a certain number at a time. And if you click Start Job automatically, then when you click on Add Upgrade Job, it would start upgrading them. By default, this is not checked. And you can see we have 32 devices. So we'll hit Add Upgrade Job. And the job's been created. So now we can tab over to the Active Jobs tab. And we can see that this job is just waiting, 32 devices selected, target software load, and we have the option to start. I'm not going to start it right now because it'll take a little while, but you could always click on Show More Details, and as it's working in progress, you'll get a status here for each device, and you'll be able to keep an eye on the progress. When the job is completed, it will move over to the Completed Jobs tab, and in the Completed Jobs tab, each job will have a little bar that keeps count of the number of devices in the job that successfully upgraded, the number of devices that failed the upgrade, and the number of devices that were skipped. Skipped just means that the device happened to be offline and could not be upgraded, so it was just skipped, and the job was determined to be complete. You could still click on Show More Details, and you could see which devices, the state of each device based on the upgrade. So that is how software upgrade works. And lastly, for configure, it actually has a slightly similar feel in the sense that they're the same three tabs, and you pick a point in the tree, you pick a device type that you would like to upgrade, and then you pick a template that you would have created. So here we have a number of different templates. This particular ePMP AP Quick Start template is one that we looked at before. So we could say we'd like to apply this template to this ePMP AP, and then we could come here to set any particular variables that this template requires. So this Quick Start template requires that the user fill out IP address and gateway, so we would do that here. Note that the template also provided a variable of netmask, but when the person created this template, they provided a default value. Here we can see netmask equals 255.255.255.0. So that's a default value for the variable. And excuse me, not sure why that is happening. So what that means is that the user is not required to fill out that particular value. Okay, so at this point, we've gone through, most of a lot of the features within the first release, and I don't see any other questions. If there are any, now would be a good time. Okay, so I don't see any questions. So at this point, thank you for joining. Thanks for your interest. And if you'd like to get started with using cnMaestro, please send an email to the email address that I displayed before, and we'd be happy to have you work with us. Thank you.